today what we're going to do is focus on clip-on mics and how we can best utilize the tools that we have to film on a DSLR system, such as the 5D Mark II and indeed the 5D Mark III or the brand new D800, which is of course, Jules is a Nikon guy, or is it Nikon? I forget.
I say Nikon.
Jules, I suppose the best thing to start with is the source, the sound.
Right. And
why we're using clip-on mics and not boom microphones. If you consider recording studios, they're generally designed not to produce ambience. And that's critical. If you listen to radio stations, the DJ is very dry, his sound of his voice is very dry because it's fatiguing to listen to him plus the entire room. So the problem here is we can't control the sound when we're on location. If we're outdoors, that's okay because we don't have that much ambience. In fact, we have no ambience when we're out in the desert because there's nothing for the sound to bounce off. But if we're in a corporate environment, a room with shiny walls, we've got a problem. Or in a big hangar where there's loads of echo, we find clip-on microphones like these here very, very useful. The trick with a clip-on microphone is to get it as close to the source as possible. Now, in preparing for this tutorial, Jules set up the microphone, and what we have is one of the mistakes that we all make is that this microphone is very, very sensitive. Right? If you attach it so that it touches clothing, if you move around, Jules, your collar is normally especially if you've got someone animated, you're going to probably damage a lot of the audio. So what we try and do is ensure that the microphone, although as discreet as possible, is away from any obstacles like the collar. If Jules bends down, we test to make sure that the microphone doesn't touch him on the throat or indeed the side of the collar. So I think we're good to go. Okay. If someone is really smartly dressed and we want to hide the microphone, you can hide it behind the tie, but try and expose the head just out of the way of any of the material rubbing. Otherwise, you will have to stop him several times to fix the audio or have to start again, and that we don't want. So,
how far from the mouth should the microphone be? If you could put it anywhere along here, as close as possible.
It's funny, today I was actually doing a recording, and what I normally do is I have the microphone a little lower, pointing towards the mouth. Right. But condenser microphones are really good, especially these ones, are very good under the throat somehow. Oh, right. If you look at opera or any of the shows where they have the microphones attached.
So the sound comes through your neck?
It does, a lot of it does. And also, it cuts a lot of the sibilances that come out of your mouth. Oh, right, okay. And any of the blasts. We've got a little windshield here. I don't think you can see that, but it's a tiny little windshield which we sometimes have to apply to the microphone to protect against any wind blast, but realistically these are pretty useless. And they're quite big, so we don't use them. But we just mic up underneath the throat, and if Jules, if you say P or S, P, yeah.
Selmes.
Yeah, it's nice and clear.
Yeah, okay.
And also, the distance between the microphone and Jules's mouth is a lot closer than Jules's mouth and the camera. And this is one of my pet hates. I absolutely hate onboard camera microphones. If you're in a scenario where you can control the sound, this thing is going to project sound from there between the end of the microphone to Jules's mouth is a good 1.5 feet. You're going to pick up a lot more room. So the further back you are, if you've got the type of lens you're using, the further back you are, the worse it's going to get.
So it's like a torch beam. So close to you, it would be that wide, but if I go back 6 feet, it's that wide, and even more, it's that wide. That's so you get more and more sound in.
Yeah. Let's take, for example, someone with a really quiet voice, Clint Eastwood, who doesn't really bellow.
Yeah.
He speaks very quietly, or Alec Baldwin or Jeff Bridges or someone really quiet with a lovely tone. They make sure that they shoot some of the intimate scenes really close up because they've got to get that microphone close up to the mouth.
Right.
And you'll notice that in a lot of the scenes, in behind the scenes stuff, the microphone's just out of frame, but they're either sitting up or down.
Right. And why is that?
Well, the reason is that there's not much sound coming from the ceiling, and there certainly isn't a lot of sound coming from your feet unless you've got some serious fungus or something.
Okay,
Okay. So, as you said, yes, you're right, this is like a torch. If I point it at you, it's going to shine its audio beam at your mouth, but if there's a construction site out there, it's going to pick up...
In the same line, it's coming straight to the mic. Okay.
Yeah. Now, with these typical shotgun mics, this is a cheap shotgun microphone. You'll see we have a grill on the front and we have some grills on the side. The reason for the grills on the side is not to pick up sound. They're actually to cancel sound out coming from the sides. And that's why shotgun microphones are used in scenes where there's crowds or other noises around you. And what it does is, if you clap from the side, the microphone is going to pick up the sound from the grill's end and the grills on the side. And what it does is it neutralizes the capsule.
I see.
So it limits the sound, especially from the side. If the sound's coming from the side, there's going to be more audio pressure coming from the side than there is from the front.
Right, okay.
So it doesn't completely cancel out the sound, but it knocks it back. Yeah. So it is very much like a mag light torch. Wherever I point this thing, it's going to pick up. So you've got to bear that in mind. So in this case, my argument is if you're pointing your microphone at somebody there, you're picking up, depending, if they're in a busy office space, you've got all sorts
dirty
of
noise,
problems.
all sorts to deal with later, and you don't want that.
No, we don't want that. So we clip in there.
So this is close, but still pointing straight at me.
Yeah, and as you can hear, Jules sounds very clean, and my voice sounds clean. There isn't much of the room in the space. And if you look at the other video we did on mixing, you will hear the quality of the tone that we change. It allows us to get a nice quality tone. So we take the boxiness out, which is currently in the voice now, and we roll that out, and all we're dealing with is tone.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference between an ambient microphone and a clip-on microphone. In some cases, we've had situations where clients don't want clip-on microphones, and that's okay. If you're a one-man band, you're out there working with a client, take a boom mic.
Right, and just have it on the floor.
Just have it on the floor.
Yeah. Just
sometimes sometimes if he's at a desk, you can't. You can't have the microphone there. So just hang it above his head.
Okay.
And it's going to be a static shot anyway. You're going to have an establishment shot, and from that established shot, you're going to get the mic in as close as you can.
When the mic's above, does it need to be in front, pointing at the mouth, not just directly above?
Well, again, it's that torch thing. If there's a blank wall behind you and it's furnished, there's not a lot of bounce coming off that. You can afford to point it a little bit closer at the mouth.
Okay.
But if there's
generally just straight down's fine.
Yeah, generally straight. I mean, move it around. Move it around until it sounds at its best. But bearing in mind what's going on behind you the whole time. But with these lovely little microphones, you don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Because it's very directional. It's very sort of localized.
Okay.
It's called cardioid. So it doesn't pick up much from down here, but it picks up a lot more from up here. I'm facing you, Jules. If you're going to mic up a conversation like we're having now,
set the levels now.
Set the levels now, but even before we get to the levels, make sure that your microphone is pointed at where your mouth is going to be. So, for example, if the sound guy is you're going to be sitting there, and you're going to set the microphone up, and then you set it up nice and straight,
turn off mic,
and then they turn off mic, and they converse that way.
Yeah.
So you got an added problem, unfortunately. You got a thing called phasing. When you're working with two microphones between two people talking, if you've got both volumes up on your mixer, and I'm talking, Jules's microphone is also picking my voice up. what tends to happen is as I move around, because I'm not a static object, as I move around, the distance between my mouth and your microphone, your mic, changes.
Yes.
And you get this sound, and it's really quite distracting. So what you have to try and do to minimize that is that you try and point the microphone away from each other.
Okay.
All right? You try and localize them
So
away.
here, pointing towards my mouth would be the ideal for this situation,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah, if you can. Or like a BBC sound guy told me once when I was struggling with trying to isolate sound between two conversations, was I have a little mixing desk, and whenever I recorded both of them up, I would turn one down just to try and get that really dry sound from the one mic, and then anticipate when they were going to speak.
Okay.
And you actually hear that through some of the recordings. There's some of the other dialogue is clipped when they say but it doesn't matter. We're kind of used to that. But you just have to be very fast fingered. But that requires a little mixing desk. But we're not at that point. We're trying to. We're a simple shoot on this example.
Okay.
We just want to point the microphones away from each other. Just think torch, torch, torch the whole time.
Okay.
And you'll be fine.
So now that we've got the mic set up, how is it captured on the camera? What do we need to think about now?
Well, you know, from when you took the camera out the other day, to understand how to record with you had all sorts of issues.
Yes.
One of them was getting sound, getting a microphone plugged into the camera now.
And knowing it's the right level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all these DSLRs, including the 5D Mark III and the
D800,
D800, which is of course on the other side of the fence, part of the unwashed community. These cameras, and part of the complaints of these cameras, these DSLR cameras, is that they don't have XLR inputs. These chaps.
Right, okay.
The three-pronged XLR plug produces a 48-volt charge, which charges up these condenser microphones. Currently, the DSLRs don't have that, and that's why you pay more for the C300 or the Sony F3s or that sort of ilk of camera where they've got onboard microphones. But we can get around that problem fairly easily. There's two ways we can go about it. The longer way round, the cheapest route round, would be to record onto something like the H4 Zoom or the Tascam, I forget what the model name is. Yeah. But you can plug an XLR into the back of that. You can power it with phantom power, 48 volts, and you can then you have to sync it up in post. Of course, that's going to take you time. If you've got time on your hands, fine, that's a really cheap way of doing it. The other solution is to get a camera-ready, or shall we say a camera-designed preamplifier that you can plug directly into the Canon and feed the audio directly into the Canon itself. It's a Juice Link. It's an American product. It has inputs for two XLR mics.
Both channels. Oh, two interviewees, not both channels, right?
Yeah,
okay.
You can plug in two for stereo if you've got two separate microphones. Okay. But the great thing about the Juice Link is that it has phantom power, so you can power up your microphones, whatever microphone you want to use, and you can plug that directly into the camera. Now, in this case, we're using a receiver system, and it picks up the signal on this receiver, sends through a line level.
Okay.
Line level.
And what's that mean? Line
level is it's a very, very subtle sound. You can barely hear it on the headphones, but it's a system level, which the camera can pick up quite clearly. Okay. So the system understands what line level is. The line level goes through from the receiver into the Juice Link or into your preamp of choice, and then out of that goes directly into your mic input, which receives line level on the DSLR
and goes to your card.
And goes to your card.
Right. Okay.
The great thing about this is you're suddenly using an external microphone, but it is recording the audio with the
pictures are in sync. Right, okay.
So if you're doing journalistic stuff and you want to get a quick turnaround, you don't need to use Plural Eyes or any of those syncing programs, or do it manually to get your sound up. So this is a typical setup that we'll take on the road with us here. We prefer this because obviously it's just quicker.
Yeah. So Rob, now I'm recording my sound, it's coming into my camera, but what can the camera tell me about levels? What's a good level? What am I aiming for to get on the back of the camera?
You get, I mean, all of you seen 0 dB on your screen, and we tend to think that we get the volume up to 0 and that's going to give us a nice healthy volume, but that's a mistake.
Okay.
You don't want to do that, especially in dialogue. If I suddenly clap my hands with joy, laugh or cough, and the audio signal is already close to 0 or at 0.
It can't go above 0.
It can go above 0. If it goes above 0, it's going to clip.
Okay.
And if it clips, trust me, if you've ever heard clipping, it's not nice. It's just a cluck sound. It's like a strike of lightning. Okay. And you basically destroyed the volume. So the kind of levels we work at are -12. So if you turn the camera around here, you'll see the level settings on the Canon is currently healthy, sitting at about halfway on the meter, and it's riding at just below -12. I know it's not showing minus there, but the 12 actually should have a minus there. It's I don't know why they've done that. I suppose it's just to make life easier for the video guys to understand, well, what's -12. Everything is minus until it gets to 0. If it goes over 0, it becomes a plus, and that's the bad situation. That's the bad situation. Right, okay. In tape, when you record on tape in the old days, 0 was the optimum level you wanted to record at, and anything above that was nice and hot. Okay. Because the noise floor on tape was higher. Digitally, -12 is where we want to be. -12, -6.
Okay.
But I would caution towards -12 in case you have any.
Gives you some room.
It gives you
so
what
you're not going to go over.
Yeah,
right,
you've heard of the word headroom.
Yes. Right.
That's what it is, headroom.
Okay.
It just gives.
And if you're too far to the left, you pick up noise. Is that right? You don't want to be too far away from 0. Yeah, you want to. Every electrical recording system has noise in it. I mean background noise, not noise.
It's system noise. It's got little components in it and a little circuit board, and it's power. It needs power to charge it up, and there's a little noise that comes with that. It's in the form of hiss.
Okay.
If your volume is too low, and you take it into post, and you want to get the level up,
you bring that up as well.
You're going to start bringing up what they call a noise floor. I'm sure you guys have heard of what a noise floor is. A noise floor is system noise. So -12, -6, it gives you enough headroom to get your sound in post close to 0, which is the industry standard.
Yes.
Okay. So it basically means that your customer watching the video doesn't have to turn their volume up for your video and turn it down for everybody else's.
Okay.
So we're trying to get our levels up to 0.
Yeah.
If you look at the voiceover for video that we did last week, you'll see the process of compression and raising the levels up to...
Just tweaking it up to that sweet 0, right?
Yeah, like what we'd shoot, when we go out and we shoot flat. So that the shot looks flat, but you know that in post you can saturate the image, you can color render.
I see.
You haven't overexposed or underexposed anything. It's exactly the same with audio. -12, -6, brilliant benchmark platform to work from.
Okay.
So that's what we're aiming for.
Okay, now can we talk about, on the Juice Link, the levels there? Because obviously when you're recording, we're not going to have that display on the back of the camera. That's going to be gone, that's going to be our picture. So then we're going to have to rely on the Juice Link LEDs.
That's a good point, Jules. With a 5D Mark II, before you press the trigger button, you can see your audio, you can make sure that everything's ready, but when you go into record mode, you lose it. On the Mark III, that's different. You can still see the audio levels. Or if you had Magic Lantern, you can still see it. But Magic Lantern, in our opinion, is kind of dangerous. We've had it hanging and giving us trouble before. So go native, check your audio levels. But then, as you said there, you have to make sure that your preamp, try and get a preamp. If you're going to buy a preamp that has a meter display on it.
Right, yeah.
And then you want to try, in whichever system you have, you want to try and match them up so that when you see peaking on the preamp, you're getting peaking on the camera.
So you can adjust the sensitivity on this preamp.
Correct.
To match your camera.
Right, okay. So the process is, you make sure that the volume coming off your microphone onto your preamp is healthy, right? So it's not peaking and it's not too soft. You don't worry about the camera at this point.
Okay.
Get that right first. Then you set your recording level on your camera to match the sound coming out of the preamp.
Okay.
Right. So you try and what the guy from Juice Link in particular says is, and I assume this will be the same with the Nikon. You don't want to use the preamp inside the camera. They're not as they won't be as good as the preamp here. So they suggest that you roll off you set your camera to manual first of all, not auto, onto manual, and then you roll that little recording input thing right down to 0, and then 1 notch up. Okay. So it's literally 1 off.
It's just showing it's recording.
Yeah. Just showing it's recording. Okay. And then you set your levels. You set your levels from your Juice Link to pump in the level you want.
I see.
Onto the camera.
Yeah.
And when that is evenly matched, you know that when you're going to record, what you see on the meter, you see on the camera.
Okay. And when it goes red, is that bad on the Juice Link?
Well, on the Juice Link, I mean, it's a pretty crude LED. The Juice Link, you can basically hear distortion. Okay. If you plug into the Juice Link, there's a headphone socket. You can tell whether it's distorting or not. Okay. You can also, and I suggest that you plug into on the Mark III, you plug into the camera to monitor your sound. Okay. Okay. Because it might what you're monitoring off the preamp might not be what's
making its way onto the camera.
Yeah,
okay, right.
Because the
it
sound
then goes into the camera's amp. Right,
so you want to try and monitor on the camera.
Okay.
Right. So that's quite important. And then lastly, with a preamp like this, you can actually set the display for the metering to match what's on the camera itself. Okay, and that's quite important too, because they're different level settings, and you want to just make sure that the visual representation is the same. Okay. Okay. That's a tweak and adjustment. If you go onto Juice Link site, you will find a very clear explanation of how you match your meters together. Okay. Don't worry too much about messing with the audio when you're recording. You've got enough things to worry about. Okay. Get the level nice and set. Maybe go through, if you can, go through the different scenarios that you might be shooting and just double check that your audio is right for that. And off you go.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.